What's up, guys? Before we get into today's video, I just wanted to let you guys know we're hosting a webinar in mid-August. There'll be a link in the description below with different times. There's going to be 2 live webinars. It's going to be on the ways that we find Chinese manufacturers, so the way our company, SourceFind Asia, researches and vets Chinese manufacturers, and then there'll be a little bit of a bonus in terms of how we sort of elevate our relationships with them. Speaking of elevate, the name of the method that we use is called the SAFE method. So if you guys have checked out our ebook, you should be a little bit familiar with this. So S stands for search, A stands for assess, F stands for finalize, and E stands for elevate. So I hope to see you guys on that live webinar. Again, link is in the description. Sign up today. There's only going to be a limited amount of seats. I believe we're only taking about 50 people on the first webinar. If there's a huge demand, then we might increase that, but sign up today so you don't miss your spot. What's up, YouTube? It's Rico here, CEO of SourceFind Asia, co-host of the Made in China podcast, and I'm back with another on the factory floor video. Today, we went to Delinda Lau's bag factory. If you saw the previous video Mike and I did, it was QC on high-end leather bags. And this was just basically an on the factory floor video on the full process of how she makes her high-end leather products. And on top of that, at the end of the video, we have a sit-down interview with Delinda Lau. So in a minute, check it out. So, of course, when we talk about bags, right, the bags are a textile, and most textile factories, of course, there's automation involved. Some textile factories have machinery, but it's an industry that involves a lot of manual labor, and hence the reason why a lot of factories are now moving to surrounding Southeast Asian countries like Vietnam, Thailand, the Philippines. But there are still a lot of factories in China that are able to make textile products at an affordable rate. Delinda's factory is more on the high-end side of things, so she does smaller orders for clients, but really high-end and like premium products. So very small factory. Like I said, she does really small production runs, customized. All of the stuff that she does is pretty much customized, and she works with a select group of clients. So what I want to remind you about is when you're looking at this montage of a factory, forget about the size of the factory, just try to pay attention to whether the production flows at each step of the process, and is it organized? So as I mentioned before, I don't want you to pay attention to the size of the factory. It's more about whether the actual production flow makes sense. So as you walk into the factory, right, like you see there's a couple different sections, lots of different tables, and each section was basically a different step of the production process. So on the left side, there was the sewing section, and after the sewing section, that leads into gluing and adhesion. And there's a drawing line, and then there's a section for cutting loose threads, and then there's hardware assembly, and finally the drying after the hardware assembly and painting process if that's needed. If you have a bag that, for example, has like a stained leather, then there's going to be a painting step after you finish all those other steps that I mentioned. And of course the sort of touching up of, because bags sometimes get damaged along the way because of human error, they have a like sort of QC and touch-up station at the end. A couple other things that were outside of that is, if you notice that there was a machine that was used to heat stamp the logos into the bags. There's a lot of different ways that you're going to put a logo into a bag. Some people want to heat stamp it. For high-end bags, that's probably the best way to do it, because if you put an actual piece of metal into the bag or something like that, that's prone to fall off or get damaged over time. They had another section where if you wanted to stamp like a brass piece of your logo into the bag, you could do that as well. And then of course, when we sat down and did the interview with Delinda, we went into her office. In her office, she had a little section. It was a little bit messy, but she had a little section with a bunch of the previous samples that they made. It was like hundreds of different bags. She's customized in tandem with her clients in the past and produced. And then she had another section because she's sort of shifted not just into bags, but she kind of does smaller leather accessories. There's another section on the other side of her office that was just all the accessories that she's working on. And then of course we sat down in her office and had an interview. So the things that were missing from this video was the section where she keeps the vast majority of the raw materials. So there's a different section of the factory, but we couldn't go on that specific day because they were mid-mass production on some proprietary products that we weren't allowed to see. And then another thing that we didn't get to see was the sort of dimension cutting. So before you actually make a textile, like you have like a sort of mold, and then they cut the piece of material out of that mold. We didn't get to see that because the bags are already cut together. So we were just seeing the assembly process. So there's a couple different things that we didn't get to see prior to that happened prior to what we saw. But she does do everything in-house. Now, what is my opinion of Delinda's factory? Again, I said it before, it's the third time I'm going to say that. It's a small factory. However, I think it is very organized. I think the interesting thing about Delinda's factory is both her and her husband was like on the last table, and he was one of the guys doing the touch-up on QC. Both her and her husband work in the factory on a daily basis. Like if you walked into that factory, apart from Delinda, because she's normally like standing overseeing stuff, you wouldn't be able to tell that her husband is like one of the bosses. Like he just looks like one of the factory workers. So they're really, really invested in their products, and they're working with their workers on weekends, 6-7 days a week to produce the best possible bags that they can make. And then on top of that, when we went there, we were actually in the process of producing the latest version of the LJS bag. Probably have like a little clip over here to show you which bag I'm talking about. But there was a QC issue that we had. They had ordered the wrong piece of hardware, interior hardware, and she was immediately upfront about it. And she goes up to Mike, she said, hey, this is an issue. Sorry, we ordered it and we've produced X amount of bags. And she said, hey, we can completely fix this and reorder. It's just going to take a week. Or if you can accept it as is, then that would be great. And from her perspective, she was like super panicked about it. And Mike was just like, oh, that's fine. We'll accept it as is, because it wasn't that much of a difference from the hardware that we actually wanted. So that's another aspect about Delinda's factories. It's very niche. Her husband and her work in the factory on a daily basis, and they really care about quality, and they're going to be honest. So those are the kind of things that I would look for in a factory that I work with. Some of the negatives, a little bit messy. Even though the actual production process is organized, her overall factory, not necessarily the floor, but like her office space and the area where they keep raw materials is a little bit messy. So, I mean, I personally don't like that, but like it's not that big of a deal. Like, and we've worked with her before, so I know that she produces quality product. I think if you are a niche, small, or a startup that wants to make high-end bags and wants to place orders of 50 bags at a time, 100 bags at a time, 60 bags at a time, this is a perfect factory for you. If you are trying to do sort of like mid to to low range bags and produce orders of 2,000 units, 5,000 units, 10,000 units, this is not the right factory for you. So based off of that, I'm gonna give Delinda's factory a rating of 4 Hongbaos out of 5. I think Delinda's fantastic. I think her factory is fantastic. She didn't pay us to make this video, by the way. Definitely check out Delinda's factory if you're interested in making high-end leather products and accessories. So Delinda, how long has your factory been open and why did you start the factory?
我们工厂已经有4年了，那个时候一毕业，然后就工作，然后后面就自己创业，所以就大概4年时间，是这样子开始的。客人就是需要我们，比如说找一些鞋子、衣服、包、钱包，不同的东西。所以我们但是因为我在公司只做单一的东西，所以我就出来帮客人找不同的东西。后面我主要集中做钱包和手袋。我们国家大部分来自美国、欧洲、澳大利亚和日本，还有小部分中东。然后不同的客户他的规模有不一样。有一些它是品牌商，有一些是零售商，所以规模会不一样。
What materials are most of your bags made from? And where do you buy the materials?
我们主要是做真皮、PU 和超铅，有一部分是进口，从意大利进口，大部分是你在内地中国买。
So where did she buy the materials?
She said most of them come from the market here, and majority of the materials originate in China.
Part of the reason why I asked is she showed me on the table Italian leather.
Yeah.
So is that a new thing?
我说了是有一部分是从意大利买。
She said some come from Italy, and she took them up at the market, and then most of the products come from.
他问你这个是以前你也做的，还是刚刚开始做这个意大利的？
去年开始。
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 So, how do you make sure that the bags are of good quality?
OK， 我们的生产是有很多不检查，就是材料回来了，就是主管会去检查这个材料点数，然后开完料之后，就是每一步都会去 check， 所以就每一步都会 check， 所以就。就这样。
Obviously, we have a lot of people on YouTube that want to know how to improve the conversations with factories. What advice do you have for foreign customers about talking to suppliers in China?
客人到我们这里，他怎么的，他都就是他告诉我们他要什么东西，那我们就按照他的要求来做，那就是最简单的。所以我不知道要怎样。你的意思是？
She goes, really? The most important thing is they show up and tell us the exact details of what they want.
Yeah.
Most of the time, they don't know the exact details, right?
开始说我要这个包那么大，
细节
有样板最好，对不对？因为你一定知道他需要什么。
他要的东西可能我们没有办法理解嘛。还有一个就是。很多客户他想要，比如说他想要到你工厂看到他想要的东西，如果没有，他就没办法进行下去嘛，这是一种。还有一种是他想要什么，但是所以我们就要去沟通，去接近他，想要得到就是知道他要什么，才能有办法进行下一步啊。
好。
所以这个我没有办法说提议你怎么去跟我们沟通，因为。换句话说，你是客人，你要做什么，你完全知道。我只能说给一点建议，就是说，比如说这样怎样，包的细节的建议。但是说怎样跟内地商更好的沟通，我觉得这个范围有点难。
知道。
Okay, last question. How has your business changed in China, and what are your plans for the future?
4年前，我觉得5、6个人在做嘛。然后慢慢人很少，然后慢慢就做，主要是帮客户保证那个品质，因为这个过程也会发生很多问题，就是品质控制不到，因为我们经验也不足，所以就会很多问题发生。然后还有一个，主要是管理上 也是很重要的，就是你要请到合适的管理人。比如说我们现在这个管理，它就很清晰嘛，但是错误是不可能。
多久跟他一起？
跟他，我们之前就有一直沟通，但是今年才开始正式合作。
刚来。
但是他的东西会比较清晰，所以但是难免会。
他以前在其他工厂
是以前其他工厂，对，但是难免犯错，那肯定是多少都会有一点，所以我只能说尽力而为，尽量仔细这样子，所以
后面呢？
就是大概5、6个人做，然后都是基本上是老客户的，比如说你们老客户会回来，因为我刚开始前面的问题，但是我自己都会承担，比如说有什么问题我承担，后面客人就会还会回来，所以就越来越多，然后客人也会介绍客人，然后我自己也会做平台嘛，就是做 international 的那种平台，所以做平台我就会一些新客户，就是这样子累积起来的，但是给自己一个方向嘛，我最主要是想可以再做一个品牌出来，然后这个品牌呢是我们自己做的很好的，我觉得任何东西质量真的是第一，所以质量跟货期真的是第一，但是每一次你的订单我都是会没有跟好，这是我的失误，所以我们只能说尽量做好，尽量，
越来越好，
越来越好。
Okay, cool.